The cold stars watched as Captain Lee Hyun guided his salvage ship through the thick purple clouds of the Omega Nebula. His crew of 12 had been searching this dead space for 3 weeks now. Most captains avoided this place. Too many ships had gone missing here over the years. But Lee Hyun was not most captains. He had served in the Terran Navy 20 years ago before everything went wrong, before the aliens took their worlds and scattered humanity to the dark corners of space. "Captain, I'm picking up something big on the sensors," called out his navigator, a young woman named Eureka. Her voice carried excitement mixed with fear. Lee Hyun moved to her station and looked at the screen. A massive shape appeared through the nebula clouds. As they got closer, he felt his heart stop. The twisted metal hull was unmistakable. Every human who had served in the Navy knew that design. "That's the Eternal Dawn," he whispered. The Eternal Dawn had been the pride of the Terran fleet, the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. 30 years ago, it had left Earth on a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim. It never came back. Most people believed it had been destroyed by pirates or gotten lost in a black hole. Lee Hyun ordered his ship closer. The Eternal Dawn was broken, but not completely destroyed. Large pieces of the hull floated in the nebula like the bones of some giant beast. Emergency lights still blinked on some sections, which meant the ship's power core was somehow still working. "Sir, I'm reading a faint life sign," Rika said, her eyes wide. "It's coming from an escape pod attached to Section 7. Lee Hyun felt his hands shake. After 30 years, someone might still be alive in there. He called for his best engineer, Song Min, to prepare for a boarding operation. 2 hours later, Lee Hyun and Song Min floated through the cold vacuum toward the escape pod. Their suits' lights cut through the darkness as they approached the small metal container. Through the pod's small window, they could see a person inside a cryo-sleep chamber. Song Min connected his tools to the pod systems. "The cryo unit is still working, but barely. We need to get this person to our medical bay fast." They pulled the pod back to their ship. Dr. Park Rin, their medical officer, worked for 6 hours to safely wake the person inside. When the cryo chamber finally opened, a woman with short black hair sat up slowly. Her eyes were confused but alert. "Where am I?" she asked in a weak voice. "You're safe," Lee Hyun said gently. "I'm Captain Lee Hyun. We found you in the Omega Nebula. Can you tell me your name?" The woman looked around the medical bay, taking in everything. "I'm Dr. Kim Nari. I was the chief science officer on the Eternal Dawn." She paused, her face growing pale. "How long have I been asleep?" Lee Hyun exchanged a look with Dr. Park Rin. 30 years, he said quietly. Kim Nari's face went white. She tried to stand but fell back onto the medical bed. 30 years? What happened to Earth? What happened to the Federation? Lee Hyun sat down in a chair next to her bed. The Federation is gone. After the Eternal Dawn disappeared, 5 alien empires attacked our worlds. They said we were too dangerous to be allowed to grow stronger. Most of our colonies were conquered or destroyed. Earth is still free, but barely. Humans are scattered across the galaxy now, hiding on small worlds and space stations. Kim Nari closed her eyes and was quiet for a long time. When she opened them again, there was anger there. They didn't just attack us, they betrayed us first. "What do you mean?" Lee Hyun asked. Kim Nari sat up straighter. "The Eternal Dawn wasn't destroyed by accident. We were sabotaged. 5 alien empires worked together to stop us before we could become too powerful. They planted bombs on our ship during what they called a peace conference." Lee Hyun felt anger rise in his chest. "You have proof of this?" Kim Nari nodded. "Everything is in the ship's computer core, but there's something else, something they were really afraid of." She looked directly at Lee Hyun. "Project Ragnarok." "What's Project Ragnarok?" "It was our most secret weapons project. We had developed technology that could have changed everything. Quantum weapons that could cut through any shield. AI systems that could predict enemy movements. Ship designs that could build themselves." Kim Nari's voice grew stronger as she spoke. "The aliens found out about it somehow. That's why they moved against us." Song Min, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. Is this technology still available? Kim Nari smiled for the first time since waking up. The research data was hidden in multiple locations across human space. Even if they destroyed the Eternal Dawn, they couldn't destroy all of it. Lee Hyun stood up and began pacing around the small medical bay. His mind was racing. For 30 years, humanity had been running and hiding. Their enemies thought they were beaten and weak. But if Kim Nari was right, if this Project Ragnarok still existed somewhere, we need to contact Admiral Choi Minji, Lee Hyun said finally. She's been organizing the scattered human fleets. If anyone can use this information, it's her. Kim Nari nodded. But we have to be careful. The aliens have spies everywhere. If they learn that I'm alive and that I know the truth about what they did, then we'll make sure they don't find out until it's too late, Lee Hyun said with determination. As their salvage ship left the Omega Nebula behind, carrying its precious cargo of both a survivor and the truth, Lee Hyun looked out at the stars. For 30 years, those stars had seemed cold and hostile. The galaxy had belonged to their enemies. But now things might be different. Dr. Kim Nari slept in their medical bay, her mind full of secrets that could change everything. Somewhere out there, other humans were hiding and waiting. And maybe, just maybe, the technology that could give them their revenge was still out there too. The aliens thought humanity was finished. They thought 30 years of silence meant defeat. Lee Hyun smiled grimly as he set course for the hidden base where Admiral Choi Minji waited. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The silence was about to end, and when it did, the galaxy would shake. Admiral Choi Minji stood in the command center of Asteroid Base Phoenix, hidden deep in the Crab Nebula. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of scattered human fleets across the galaxy. For 30 years, she had been gathering the survivors, building a network of hidden bases and secret communications. But today was different. Today, everything would change. Captain Lee Hyun's message had arrived 3 days ago. Dr. Kim Nari was alive. The truth about the Eternal Dawn was finally known, and most importantly, Project Ragnarok might still exist. Admiral, the Council is ready, said Commander Park Jun, her intelligence chief. He was a thin man with sharp eyes who had spent decades gathering information about their enemies. Minji nodded and walked into the secure briefing room. 23 people sat around the large table. These were the surviving leaders of humanity's military forces. Captains who commanded small fleets, generals who led resistance groups on occupied worlds, and scientists who had kept human technology alive in hidden laboratories. Dr. Kim Nari sat at the far end of the table. She looked much better after a week of medical care, but her eyes still carried the weight of 30 years of loss. Thank you all for coming, Admiral Minji said as she took her seat. Dr. Kim, please tell them what you told me. Kim Nari stood up slowly. 30 years ago, I watched our enemies destroy the Eternal Dawn, but before I escaped, I learned why they did it. They were afraid of what we were becoming. She activated a holographic projector in the center of the table. Images appeared showing advanced ship designs and weapon systems. This is Project Ragnarok. We had developed technology that could have made humanity the dominant power in the galaxy. Quantum phase weapons that could cut through any known shield. Adaptive AI systems that learned from every battle. Ship hulls that could repair themselves. General Nam Wu, a scarred veteran who led ground forces on 3 worlds, leaned forward. Why haven't we heard about this before? Because it was classified at the highest levels, Kim Nari replied. Only a few people knew the full scope of the project. Most of them died when the aliens attacked our research stations. Most of them? Commander Park Jun asked, his intelligence instincts sharp. Kim Nari smiled. Engineer Song Tai was the lead designer for Project Ragnarok. According to my records, he was working at Research Station Omega when it was attacked. His body was never found. Admiral Minji felt her heart race. You think he might be alive? 3 days ago, I sent out a coded message using old Ragnarok protocols. This morning I got a response. Kim Nari's smile grew wider. Songtai has been hiding in the Vega system for 30 years, and he's been working. The room exploded in excited voices. Admiral Minji raised her hand for silence. What exactly has he been working on? Kim Nari touched the projector controls. New images appeared showing sleek ships unlike anything they had seen before. He's built prototypes, 3 ships using Ragnarok technology, along with improvements he's made over the past 3 decades. Lieutenant Yoon Hana, the leader of their small fighter squadron, studied the designs with professional interest. These ships look fast. How fast? According to Songtai's data, they can travel at speeds that make our current ships look like they're standing still. And their weapons? Kim Nari paused for dramatic effect. Their weapons can destroy a battleship with a single shot. General, Nam Wu whistled low. If this is true, why hasn't Songtai contacted us before now? He was being careful, Kim Nari explained. He knew the aliens had spies in human space. He waited until he was sure his technology was ready, and until he could find trustworthy contacts. Commander Park Jun was studying the tactical data. These adaptive AI systems, how do they work? They learn from every encounter, Kim Nari said. If an enemy uses a particular tactic once, the AI remembers it and develops a counter. If they use a specific weapon, the AI figures out how to defend against it. The more battles they fight, the smarter they become. Admiral Minji stood up and walked to the large window that showed the nebula outside. 30 years of running and hiding. 30 years of watching their people suffer under alien rule. 30 years of planning for a day like this. How soon can we contact Songtai directly, she asked. I can send him coordinates for a meeting within the week, Kim Nari replied. Do it, Minji ordered. Then she turned to address the entire room. Ladies and gentlemen, for 30 years our enemies have believed us defeated. They divided up our worlds among themselves. They enslaved our people. They thought humanity was finished. She looked each person in the eye as she spoke. But they made one mistake. They left us alive. And now we have the tools to remind them why they were afraid of us in the first place. Lieutenant Yoon Hana raised her hand. Admiral, what about testing these new ships? We can't just rush into battle with untested technology. You're right, Minji said. We'll need pilots brave enough to test experimental ships in dangerous conditions. Are you volunteering? Yoon Hana grinned. Yes, ma'am. When do we start? 2 weeks later, Lieutenant Yoon Hana sat in the cockpit of the prototype fighter ship Ghost. The ship was beautiful in a deadly way. Its hull seemed to shift and bend light around it, making it nearly invisible even up close. Songtai's voice came through her headset. All systems are green, Lieutenant. Remember, this ship thinks as fast as you do. Don't fight the AI. Work with it. Hana activated the engines and felt power like nothing she had ever experienced. The Ghost moved through space like it was swimming through water instead of flying through vacuum. When she pushed the speed controls, the stars became lines of light. This is incredible, she whispered. That's just the beginning, Songtai said. Now try the weapon systems. Target that old asteroid over there. Hana locked onto the asteroid and fired. A beam of pure energy shot out, but it looked wrong somehow. Instead of a straight line, it seemed to bend and twist through space. When it hit the asteroid, there was no explosion. The asteroid simply disappeared. What just happened? Hana asked. Quantum phase technology, Songtai explained proudly. The weapon doesn't destroy the target. It moves it to a different dimension. No shields can stop it because it doesn't actually hit the shields. Back at the base, Admiral Minji watched the test through the ship's cameras. Around her, the other commanders watched in amazed silence. This was power beyond anything they had imagined. Songtai, she said into her communicator, how many of these ships can you build? With the right resources and facilities, I can build hundreds, came the reply. But first, we need to test the larger ship designs. The fighter is impressive, but wait until you see what the battleship can do. Admiral Minji smiled. For the first time in 30 years, she felt hope growing in her chest. The aliens had thought themselves safe. They had grown comfortable ruling over human worlds. That comfort was about to end. The TFS Retribution moved through space like a silent predator. Captain Lim Siok stood on the bridge, watching the blue world of New Seoul grow larger on the main screen. 30 years ago, this had been a thriving human colony with 2 million people. Now it was a prison world under Saurian Empire control. "Captain, we're detecting 52 enemy ships in orbit," reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Choi Hana. "Mostly heavy cruisers and battleships. They're not expecting trouble." Lim Siok smiled coldly. "No, they're not. After 30 years of silence, why would they?" The Retribution was the first full-sized warship built with Project Ragnarok technology. Unlike the small prototype fighters, this ship was designed for major battles. Its hull was covered with adaptive armor that could shift and change based on incoming attacks. Its weapons could fire through dimensions, appearing inside enemy ships without warning. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," called Communications Officer Park Do. "It's Ambassador Kang Dae." The main screen changed to show an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him, Lim Siok could see the underground bunkers where human refugees had hidden for decades. "Captain, is that really a Terran warship?" Kang Dae asked, his voice filled with desperate hope. "Yes, Ambassador. We've come to take you home," Lim Siok replied. "Are your people ready for evacuation?" "We've been ready for 30 years," Kang Dae said with tears in his eyes. "But the Saurians have over 50 ships up there. You can't fight them all alone." Lim Siok looked around his bridge at his crew of 30 officers. Each one had trained for years on the new technology. Each one had lost family to the alien empires. "Watch us." He closed the communication and turned to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant, Yun-Su, target the lead Saurian battleship. Let's announce our arrival." The Retribution's main weapon charged with a sound like distant thunder. On the screen, they could see the Saurian fleet beginning to turn toward them. The enemy ships were massive, covered in thick armor and bristling with guns. Quantum phase. "Cannon ready, sir?" Yun-Su reported. "Fire." A beam of twisted light shot out from the Retribution. It passed right through the Saurian battleship's shields as if they didn't exist. When it hit the hull, the entire ship simply vanished in a flash of silver light. Silence filled the bridge for a moment. Then Lieutenant Choi Hana spoke in an amazed whisper. "Sir, the battleship is gone. It's not destroyed, it's just gone." "Moved to another dimension," Lim Siok explained. "The crew is still alive, but they won't be bothering anyone for a very long time." The Saurian fleet erupted in activity. Ships turned toward the Retribution, their weapons charging for a massive attack. Radio chatter filled with alien voices screaming orders and warnings. "Captain, they're demanding our surrender," reported Park Do. "They want to know what happened to their battleship." "Tell them they'll find out soon enough," Lim Siok said. "All weapons open fire." The Retribution became a storm of deadly energy. Quantum phase beams lanced out in all directions, each one making another enemy ship disappear. The Saurian return fire struck the Terran ship's adaptive shields, which absorbed the energy and used it to make the shield stronger. Commander Ojina, leader of the ship's Marine Corps, watched the battle from the hangar bay. Her soldiers were ready to board any enemy ships that survived the initial attack. But as she watched, ship after ship simply vanished under the Retribution's fire. "Ma'am, I don't think we're going to need boarding parties today," said Sergeant Kim Won, her second in command. Gina smiled grimly. "Maybe not today, but this is just the beginning." On the bridge, the tactical display showed the enemy fleet, shrinking rapidly. The Saurian admiral tried every trick he knew. His ship split up and attacked from multiple directions. They used electronic warfare to try to jam the Retribution systems. They even tried ramming attacks. Nothing worked. The Retribution's AI system predicted every move before the Saurians made it. When enemy ships split up, the Terran weapons split their fire. When they tried to jam communications, the AI switched to quantum entanglement channels that couldn't be blocked. When they tried ramming, the adaptive armor made the hull too slippery for the attacks to connect. In 23 minutes, 52 Saurian warships became 0 Saurian warships. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from the planetary defense stations," Lieutenant Choi Hana reported. "Accept their surrender," Lim Siok ordered. "Commander." "Oh, Take your Marines down to secure the planet. I want all Saurian military forces disarmed within 6 hours. Yes, sir, Ojina replied, already heading for the transport shuttles. 4 hours later, Lim Seok stood in the main square of New Seoul City. Around him, 2 million human colonists cheered and cried as they saw Terran uniforms for the first time in 30 years. Children who had been born in underground shelters stared in wonder at soldiers from Earth. Ambassador Kang Dae approached with tears streaming down his face. Captain, I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by helping. Spread the word, Lim Seok replied. Every human settlement needs to know. The silence is broken. The Terran Federation has returned. Kang Dae nodded and activated a portable communicator. Within hours, his message would spread across the galaxy through hidden human networks. On 100 worlds and 1,000 asteroid colonies, human refugees would learn that their long nightmare was ending. But the message would reach other ears as well. In the capital cities of 5 alien empires, intelligence officers would receive reports that made them wake up their superiors in the middle of the night. High Chancellor Vexthar of the hegemony of Keth received the news while dining with his generals. When his aide whispered the report in his ear, he stood up so quickly that his chair fell over. 52 ships destroyed by one human vessel? He demanded. Are you certain? Yes, my lord. The Saurian admiral transmitted the battle data before his ship was destroyed. The human technology appears to be far beyond anything we've seen before. Vexthar felt a cold fear growing in his chest. 30 years ago, the 5 empires had united to destroy humanity before they could become a threat. They had succeeded, or so they thought. They had divided up human space and enslaved human worlds, confident that the scattered survivors could never challenge them again. Now a single human warship had wiped out an entire fleet without taking any damage. If the humans had more ships like this one, if they had been secretly building while the aliens thought them defeated. Send messages to the other empire leaders, Vexthar ordered. Emergency conference. We may have made a terrible mistake 30 years ago. What mistake, my lord? Vexthar looked out the window at his capital city, with its towering spires and millions of citizens who had never known fear. We should have made sure we killed them all. Back on New Seoul, Captain Lim Seok stood in his quarters aboard the Retribution. Through his window he could see the lights of the liberated city. Tomorrow they would begin the journey to their next target. There were 97 human worlds under alien control, and the Retribution was just the first of many new Terran warships. He activated his personal communicator and sent a message to Admiral Choi Minji. First blood drawn, the hunt begins. 6 months had passed since the liberation of New Seoul, and the galaxy trembled. 12 alien worlds had fallen to Terran forces, each battle more devastating than the last. The human fleet seemed to grow stronger with every victory, their technology adapting and improving at an impossible rate. Fleet Admiral Hong Kyung stood in the command center of the massive space station Prometheus, hidden in the Horsehead Nebula. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of 47 human battleships, each one as powerful as the Retribution. It was the largest fleet humanity had assembled in 30 years. Admiral, we're receiving reports from Captain Shin. Yuki, said his communications officer, Commander Li Yan. The stealth destroyer Phantom Strike has successfully mapped the Crystalline Dominion's home system. Hong Kyung smiled. The Phantom Strike was their newest ship design, built for reconnaissance and special operations. Unlike the battleships, with their massive quantum weapons, the stealth destroyer was designed to be invisible and untouchable. Put her through, Hong Kyung ordered. Captain Shin Yuki's image appeared on the main screen. She was a young woman with short black hair and the sharp eyes of a veteran scout. Admiral, I've been watching their capital system for 3 weeks. They have over 200 ships defending their homeworld, but their formations are predictable. They're scared and acting defensively. What about their weapon systems? Hong Kyung asked. Still using the same technology they had 30 years ago, Shin Yuki replied. Their shields can't stop our quantum phase weapons, and their sensors can't detect our stealth systems. They're fighting yesterday's war while we're fighting tomorrow's. Hong Kyung nodded. Return to base, Captain. We have bigger plans for your ship. As Shin Yuki's image disappeared, Hong Kyung turned to his science officer, Dr. Bae Hyun. The older man had been working on their most ambitious project yet, something that would prove humanity's mastery over life itself. Doctor, how is Project Phoenix progressing? Hong Kyung asked. Dr. Bae Hyun smiled proudly. We're ready for the first full test, Admiral. We found a dead world in the outer rim, nothing but rock and ice, perfect for our demonstration. Project Phoenix was beyond anything the aliens had imagined. It was a terraforming system that could transform lifeless worlds into garden planets in a matter of hours. But more than that, it was a weapon that could reshape entire star systems if needed. Excellent, Hong Kyung said. Send word to Admiral Choi Minji. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can create as well as destroy. 3 days later, representatives from every major news network in the galaxy gathered in space near a dead planet, designated only as Rock 7. They had been invited by the Terran Federation to witness something unprecedented. Most of the alien reporters expected to see another demonstration of human weapons technology. Instead, they watched in amazement as Dr. Bae Hyun's terraforming ships began their work. Massive beams of energy struck the planet's surface, but instead of destruction, they brought transformation. Ice melted and became oceans, atmospheric. Processors filled the sky with breathable air. Automated systems seeded the land with plants and trees that grew at incredible speed. In 6 hours, a lifeless rock became a world of blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds. It was beautiful beyond description, and it sent a clear message to every alien government watching. Humanity now commanded the power of creation itself. Back on the hegemony of Keth's homeworld, High Chancellor Vexithar watched the terraforming demonstration with growing horror. Around his conference table sat the leaders of the other 4 empires, their faces pale with fear. This changes everything, said Empress Zix of the Vorthan Collective, her insectoid features twisted with worry. If they can create worlds in ours, they can transform our worlds too. They could turn our planets against us. It's worse than that, said Prime Crystal Har of the Crystalline Dominion. My intelligence reports say they have dozens of these terraforming ships. They could reshape entire sectors of space. High Chancellor Vexthar stood and walked to the massive window overlooking his capital city. Below, millions of his people went about their daily lives, unaware that their entire civilization was under threat. 30 years ago, we thought we were being smart, he said quietly. We saw humanity growing too powerful, so we struck first. We destroyed their main fleet and scattered their colonies. We thought we had won. We did win, protested General Grak of the Saurian Empire. We controlled their worlds for 3 decades. No, Vexthar replied, turning back to face the group. We gave them 30 years to become something far worse than we ever imagined. We created an enemy that doesn't just want to defeat us, they want to replace us. Emperor Voss of the Phantom Syndicate leaned forward. Then we must strike first again. Combine all our fleets and attack Earth directly. Cut off the head of their new federation. With what? Vexthar asked bitterly. My scouts report that human ships appear and disappear at will. Their weapons ignore our shields. Their technology seems to predict our moves before we make them. How do you fight an enemy like that? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Unknown. To the alien leaders, Captain Shin Yuki's stealth destroyer was floating invisibly just outside their conference room window. The Phantom Strike's advanced sensors recorded every word of their conversation while remaining completely undetected. Admiral Hong, you need to hear this, Shin Yuki transmitted to the human fleet. They're planning a direct assault on Earth. Hong Kyung received the message aboard the Prometheus. Around him, his staff officers listened as Shin Yuki played back the alien conversation. How large a fleet are they planning? Hong Kyung asked. From what I could gather, they're committing everything, Shin Yuki replied. Over 800 ships from all 5 empires. They plan to arrive at Earth in 2 weeks. Commander Li Yan looked worried. Admiral, that's a massive force. Even with our technology, 800 ships could overwhelm our defenses. Hong Kyung smiled coldly. Commander, I think you're forgetting something. We're not the same humans who ran and hid 30 years ago. Dr. Bay, is the orbital defense network ready? Dr. Bay-Hyan nodded enthusiastically. The quantum-linked defense platforms are fully operational. Each one can target ships across multiple star systems simultaneously. The aliens won't even know they're under attack until it's too late. Perfect, Hong Kyung said. Captain Shin, continue monitoring their fleet movements. Let them come. It's time to end this war once and for all. 2 weeks later, the combined alien fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 837 ships representing the combined might of 5 galactic empires. High Chancellor Vexthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue world that had spawned humanity. Sensors show no defending fleet, reported his tactical officer. The humans appear to have abandoned their homeworld. Vexthar frowned. That didn't seem right. Humans were many things, but they weren't cowards. Begin the attack. Target their major cities. The alien fleet moved forward in perfect formation. They had trained for this moment for months, coordinating their different technologies and tactics into one overwhelming assault. They never saw the platforms. Hidden throughout the solar system, 50 quantum defense platforms powered up simultaneously. Each platform was connected to the others through quantum entanglement, allowing them to share targeting data instantaneously across vast distances. The first alien ship simply disappeared. Then another, then 10 more. Within minutes, ships were vanishing throughout the fleet as the defense platforms fired through dimensional space, their weapons appearing inside enemy hulls without warning. What's happening? Vexthar screamed as ships around him began disappearing. Where are the weapons coming from? His sensors officer was frantically working his controls. Sir, I can't detect any attacking ships. The weapons seem to be coming from empty space. In 15 minutes, 837 alien warships became 0 alien warships. The combined might of 5 empires had been erased from existence without firing a single shot in return. On Earth, President Park Soo watched the battle from the underground command center beneath Seoul. Around him, military officers cheered as the last alien ship vanished from their sensors. Send a message to all alien governments, Park Soo ordered. Tell them we're ready to discuss surrender terms. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. 2 years after the destruction of the alien fleet at Earth, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Terran Federation now controlled over 300 star systems, and their territory grew larger every month. What had started as scattered human refugees had become the most powerful civilization in known space. President Park Soo stood in her office on Earth, looking out at the gleaming towers of New Geneva. The city had been rebuilt with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, its spires reaching toward the stars like monuments to human achievement. Madam President, the alien representatives have arrived, announced her aide, Colonel Lim Day. Park. Sue turned from the window. Today would decide the future of every species in the galaxy. After 2 years of relentless human expansion, the 5 alien empires had finally requested a meeting. They wanted to discuss peace terms. Send them in, she said. The conference room doors opened and 5 figures entered. High Chancellor Vexthar of the hegemony of Keth looked much older than he had 2 years ago. His allies from the other empires looked equally worn down by the constant defeats their fleets had suffered. President Park, Vexthar said with a stiff bow. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. High Chancellor, Park Soo replied, gesturing to chairs around the conference table. Please sit. I believe you have something to discuss. As the alien leaders took their seats, Park Soo activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked Terran territory, which now covered nearly half of all inhabited space. The alien empire's territories were, shown in fading colors, shrinking with each passing month. We come to offer our unconditional surrender, Vexthar said, his voice heavy with defeat. Our fleets cannot stand against your technology. Our worlds cannot defend against your weapons. We ask only that our people be allowed to live. Lax. Sue studied the alien leaders for a long moment. These were the beings who had ordered the destruction of human colonies 30 years ago. They had enslaved human worlds and scattered her people across the galaxy like refugees. They had thought humanity was finished. Your surrender is accepted, she said finally. But surrender alone is not enough. There must be justice for what you did to my people. Emperor Voss of the Phantom Syndicate leaned forward desperately. We will pay any reparations you demand. We will give up any territory you claim. We will do whatever you ask. What I ask, Park Su said coldly, is for you to face trial for your crimes against humanity. The alien leaders exchanged worried glances. They had expected demands for territory or resources. They had not expected to be held personally responsible for their actions. And if we refuse? Asked Empress Zix of the Vorthan Collective. Park Su touched a control on her desk. The holographic display changed to show the orbital defense platforms surrounding Earth, but now there were hundreds of them spread throughout human space. Then Grand Admiral Kim Tae will demonstrate our newest weapon system, she said calmly. If summoned by her words, Admiral Kim Tae entered the conference room. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Behind him walked Dr. Lee Sol, the brilliant scientist who had created humanity's most terrible weapon. Dr. Lee, please explain the judgment protocol to our guests, Park Su said. Dr. Lee Sol activated a new holographic display. It showed the interconnected network of human ships, space stations, and defense platforms spread across the galaxy. The judgment protocol is the final evolution of our quantum technology, she explained in a calm, scientific voice. Every alien ship, space station, and planetary defense system in the galaxy contains computer systems. Our quantum AI can now infiltrate and control all of those systems simultaneously. The alien leaders stared at the display in growing horror. If what the human scientist said was true, you're bluffing, General Grack of the Saurian Empire said, but his voice shook with uncertainty. Dr. Lee Sol smiled. Admiral Kim, would you care to provide a demonstration? Kim Tae nodded and activated a communication device. All stations. This is Admiral Kim. Execute Judgment Protocol demonstration. Target, Saurian Military Communications Network. Across the galaxy, in the Saurian Empire's capital system, every military communication channel suddenly went silent. Defense platforms stopped responding to commands. Warships found their engines and weapon systems offline. Even the lights in military buildings flickered and died. General Grack's own communication device beeped. When he activated it, a human voice spoke in perfect Saurian language. Your systems now belong to us. This is only a small demonstration of what the Judgment Protocol can do. The room fell silent. The alien leaders finally understood the true scope of their situation. Humanity didn't just have superior weapons. They had complete control over every piece of technology in alien space. How long have you had this capability? Vexthar asked quietly. 6 months, Park Su replied. We could have shut down every alien military system in the galaxy at any time. We could have left your worlds defenseless and conquered them all without firing a shot. Then why didn't you? Asked Prime Crystal Harpark. Sue stood and walked back to the window overlooking New Geneva. Because we're not like you. When you had the power to destroy us, you used it without hesitation. When we have the power to destroy you, we choose justice instead. She turned back to face the alien leaders. You will stand trial for your crimes. If you are found guilty, you will be removed from power, and your governments will be reorganized under Terran supervision. Your people will be allowed to keep their worlds and their cultures, but they will live under laws that protect all sentient beings, not just your own species. High Chancellor Vexthar felt a mixture of relief and shame. He had expected death, or slavery. Instead, the humans were offering justice and a chance for redemption. And if we agree to this, he asked, then your worlds will be protected under Terran law, Park Su said. Your people will have the same rights as human citizens. Your children will grow up in a galaxy where no empire can prey upon the weak. Admiral Kim Tae stepped forward. But understand this clearly. If any of your people ever again threaten innocent lives, if they ever return to the old ways of conquest and slavery, The Judgment Protocol will end their civilization in minutes. 3 months later, the trials concluded. 4 of the 5 alien leaders were found guilty of crimes against sentient beings. Only Empress Zix of the Vorthan Collective was acquitted, as evidence showed she had opposed the original attack on humanity. The guilty leaders were removed from power and sentenced to supervised exile on a remote world. Their empires were dissolved and reorganized as democratic federations under Terran oversight. President Park Sue stood once again in her office, but now she looked out at a different view. The window showed not just Earth, but a holographic display of the entire galaxy. Green zones marked the territories of the new Terran Galactic Federation, a union of hundreds of species living under laws that protected everyone equally. "Madam, President, the morning briefing is ready," announced her aide. "Thank you, Colonel Lim," she replied. "Any significant news?" "The terraforming of the Outer Rim is proceeding ahead of schedule. The new colonies are reporting excellent growth, and Ambassador Kim Nari sends word that the former Saurian worlds are adapting well to their new government system." Park Sue smiled. Kim Nari had become one of their best diplomats, helping former enemy worlds transition to peaceful coexistence. "And the military situation?" Park Sue asked. "All quiet, ma'am. The Quantum Defense Network reports no hostile activity anywhere in Federation space. Admiral Hong Kyung says his fleets are focusing on exploration missions now instead of combat operations." Park Sue nodded. For the first time in decades, human children could grow up without fear of alien attack. More importantly, alien children could also grow up without fear of their own governments turning them into soldiers for wars of conquest. She touched the memorial wall that had been built into her office. On it were listed the names of every human who had died during the 30 years of alien occupation. Millions of names. Millions of people who had not lived to see this day. "We did it," she whispered to their memory. "We kept our promise. No one will ever hurt our people again." Outside her window, the galaxy turned peacefully in space. On 1,000 worlds, beings of dozens of different species lived and worked together under the protection of Terran law. The age of empires was over. The age of justice had begun. And in hidden bases throughout human space, new ships were being built. Not weapons of war, but vessels of exploration. Humanity had conquered their enemies, but their real dream had always been the stars themselves. The galaxy was vast, and there were still so many mysteries to discover. But this time, humanity would explore them in peace.